Trump reacted to Canada's announcement, saying the stance will make it very hard for the U.S. to make a trade deal with them. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced yesterday that Canada is planning to recognize the state of Palestine at a meeting of the United Nations in September. The move follows France and Britain's pledge to do the same. However, the UK said they will only do it if Israel does not meet conditions, which include agreeing to a ceasefire in Gaza. Israel and the U.S. both rejected Carney's statements. Canada and the U.S. are working on negotiating a trade deal by tomorrow. Canada could face a 35% tariff if no deal is reached. Carney said yesterday that tariff negotiations have been constructive, but the talks may not finish by the deadline. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is in Israel today, meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Witkoff is working to make progress on Gaza ceasefire talks. Shortly after the envoy's arrival, President Trump posted on social media, "The fastest way to end the humanitarian crises in Gaza is for Hamas to surrender and release the hostages." Indirect ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas terrorists in Qatar ended in a deadlock last week. Israel says it wants Hamas to release all remaining hostages. Hamas, meanwhile, wants Israeli troops to withdraw completely from Gaza, among other demands. Israel's public broadcaster reports that Witkoff is also scheduled to visit an aid distribution site in Gaza during his trip. The Senate rejects two resolutions that would have blocked weapon sales to Israel. Senator Bernie Sanders introduced the motions in response to concerns over civilian casualties in Gaza. Almost two-thirds of senators voted against the resolutions.
The yeas are 24, the nays are 73, and the motion is not agreed to.
It is in the interest of America and the world to see this terrorist group destroyed. They use the people of Gaza as human shields, and they steal the food that the people of Gaza need. It is despicable behavior. These are not good people.
Both motions. Rich called the resolutions misguided
The
and
members
said they would abandon America's closest
Senate
ally in the
that
Middle East.
rejected it.
Russia launched waves of missile and drone attacks on Kyiv overnight, killing several people and wounding dozens. Here's the update.
A 6-year-old boy and his mother were killed and dozens wounded
Nobody's
in Russia's latest missile and drone attacks on
got
Kyiv,
any rage
according
for
to
this.
Ukrainian officials. Survivors of the first wave of attacks scrambled for cover as air raid sirens blared in the distance. Below ground, residents took shelter in the metro while explosions rocked the capital overnight. As the sun rose, emergency crews were putting out fires and cutting through concrete blocks in search for survivors across the city. Wrapped in a blanket next to a damaged building, 62-year-old Yuri Kravchuk said he heard the missile alert but did not get to a shelter in time.
There was a second air raid alert. I got up, took my phone, and saw that 5 cruise missiles were headed for Kyiv. I tried to wake up my wife, but then there was an explosion, and that was it. Our daughter is now in the hospital.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia fired more than 300 drones and 8 missiles and hit residential buildings in the capital. Kyiv's mayor, Vitaly Klitschko, said the attack had caused the highest number of child casualties in a single night in the city since Russia's full-scale invasion began. In recent months, Russia, which denies targeting civilians, has intensified airstrikes on Ukrainian cities far from the war's front line. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that the United States would impose tariffs and other measures on Russia unless Moscow shows progress toward
covenant before the people bore the ark and came to Jordan, and when the feet of the priest who bore the ark dipped to the edge of the water, this is so important, Jordan began to overflow its banks during the time of harvest. The waters which came down from upstream stood still. I want you to see what this says. It says, for Jordan, the King James says, for Jordan overflowed all its banks at the time of harvest. You never get the harvest from God. This is a Bible principle. Right when you're ready to walk across, right when you're ready to go, the enemy comes in like a flood came, and Jordan began to swell, for Jordan overflows all its banks at the time of the harvest. You never get the harvest without the flood. If the flood comes, it means that you're closer to the harvest than you've ever been. You get right to the door of revival, and suddenly it's flood stage, and the enemy does everything he can to stop a family, to stop a person from being saved. And
a British Home Office spokesperson said they take the threat of transnational repression extremely seriously and will not tolerate it, saying the government is already taking action to strengthen the UK's response. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News, London.
The Chinese regime today summoned American chip-making giant NVIDIA. China's cyberspace regulator is alleging security risks in the company's AI chips. Chinese authorities claim that NVIDIA's H20 chips sold in China have backdoor security threats, but the CCP hasn't backed up the claim with any tests or findings. The regime also hasn't said what actions it might take after summoning NVIDIA. Just 2 weeks ago, NVIDIA said it got the Trump administration's assurance that the sale of H20 AI chips to China would be approved. That chip was specifically developed for the Chinese market and less powerful than the company's flagship processors. Chinese tech giants like Tencent and ByteDance are using this chip. In a move to counter communist China, the FBI has opened a new office in New Zealand. FBI Director Kash Patel said today the step will improve the United States and New Zealand's ability to counter China's presence in the Pacific region.
Some of the most important global issues of our times are the ones that New Zealand and America work on together. Countering the CCP in the Indo-PACOM theater, countering the narcotics trade, working against cyber intrusions and ransomware operations, and most importantly, protecting our respective citizenry.
Patel visited New Zealand to open the office. The FBI director says it will strengthen cooperation with the key partner in the Southwestern Pacific. The U.S. and New Zealand work closely on policing issues including child exploitation and organized crime. China's increasing influence in the Pacific have brought the two countries closer together. They're both members of the intelligence sharing partnership known as the Five Eyes, which also includes Australia, Canada, and the UK. Coming up, why so many Americans are wide awake when they should be sleeping, and the small changes that could help you finally rest in a minute.
Understand that when you're at the greatest impasse of your life, that just means that only harvest comes only in the time of flooding of Jordan. It's the flood that brings you into the promises. Joshua, get out front, for you have not passed this way before. You've never seen, I want to say it like I want to say it, Free Chapel, you've never seen a revival like you're about to see. I'm going to go on and talk faith. We've never seen healings like we are going to see. These are the last days. It's time for the church to believe in miracles again. We have never seen our families on fire for Jesus like we are going to see. Somebody get up on your feet and say, Jordan, you're going to part. Hallelujah. Jordan, the enemy sends the flood, but our God rides on the flood. The Bible said in Psalms that the voice of the Lord is in the flood. Hallelujah. And the Bible said he is enthroned on the waters and the flood.
What's driving the sleepless crisis, and what can be done? For insight, we welcome Dr. Jacqueline Campbell. Dr. Campbell, many experts now call chronic insomnia a public health crisis. From your perspective, why is sleeplessness becoming so widespread in America?
Hi, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me. That's a really good question because a lot of people, we neglect our health. We're constantly busy with work and family and kids, and we try to fit in hobbies and social studies or social activities, and there's just not enough time. Unfortunately, we have to really discipline ourselves to make sure that we schedule our day around our sleep. The consistency of our sleep is the most important. We also have to make sure that we are decompressing our stress throughout the day. So we have to actually do less during the day, have some downtime, do some activities that are de-stressing, work through relationship conflict to make sure that you are not thinking and obsessing. It's actually ruminating thoughts that keep our body active right before bed. If we don't do that, our brain can't get into theta wave, which puts us into REM sleep, and we aren't just dreaming when we're sleeping. We're actually rejuvenating and healing our body. If we don't do those things and cater to our sleep schedule, we don't get that regenerative effect.
Okay, Jacqueline, so what you're saying is that if you're too wired, you're not going to be able to fall asleep. And you say do less. What does that really look like? And how can we do that in today's fast-paced world?
Another great question. A lot of times we sit up scrolling right before bed when really that even if you're on Netflix, I get it. I'm guilty of it too, but we need at least 30 minutes of downtime where our brain is not go all of the time. Do something like meditation, mindfulness, deep breathing. These are the things that we need to do right before bed, even if we have a high-paced life. I get it. I work with, after 15 years in the mental health field, I moved into leadership development with executives, CEOs, business owners. They have so much to do. The average person does too, but these high-level people, they also have this problem. The thing is, no matter how much we do during the day, stop, reflect, give into your mindfulness, pay attention to your body. It actually repairs the physiological connection from our brain to our body so that we can effectively decompress. If you are in a fast-paced environment, fast-paced life, that's perfectly fine. Give yourself that 30 minutes. There is one specific technique that I go to every single night, no matter how busy I am. It's called the heart lock-in technique, and it's heart-focused breathing. You just close your eyes, you breathe into your heart center, breathe out from your heart center, breathe in, breathe out. If you take about 30 minutes to decompress at the end of the day and then do this for 5 minutes.
You know, I think some of the best things about this law is the opportunity to have the VA step in and ensure that a veteran doesn't lose their home just because they're behind on their payments. It allows a restructuring of the past due amount in the form of a non-interest bearing loan. So it's not a loan forgiveness program. This isn't a handout. This is just giving them more time to catch up on their past due mortgage payments.
This bill got bipartisan, bicameral support. Why do you think it passed at this time?
You know, taking care of America's veterans is something that should be important to everyone, regardless of what party they're in. The people that have gone overseas and fought for our freedoms, they come back home, and often they don't get the care they were promised. We have far too many veterans in this nation who sleep on sidewalks, who are homeless, who wait months for appointments at VA clinics, and who need to get the care they were promised. So people on both sides of the aisles can see that struggle, and bringing this bill and passing it will go a long way towards solving some of the problems facing veterans.
Let's dig into that a little more. This is targeting one specific aspect of the challenges that many veterans face in civilian life, but what do you see as, let's say, the main challenges facing veterans and how home ownership might help with that?
One of the main challenges is just finding good, well-paying civilian employment. You know, the manufacturing sector in the United States has been taking a hit for decades. The Trump administration is pushing back on that, looking to bring back domestic production. This bill will allow for an increase in per diem payments, so that can help offset some of the homelessness that a lot of veterans face by giving them greater access to housing and support services.
And what else do you think could be done to help our heroes thrive after service?
You know, I don't think any of the people that have gone and fought for our freedoms really expect a handout of any type. What they want is the American government to keep their promises. They were promised access to favorable home loans. They were promised certain education benefits like the GI Bill. They were promised solid medical care to ensure that they have long-term care, especially for the injuries that they've sustained in the line of duty. That's really what most veterans want. They want the federal government to honor its promises, to cut the red tape, move the bureaucratic delays out of the way, and just get the job done.
Is there anything missing from this conversation more broadly that you'd like to share with us all today?
Veterans face a number of issues, and it ranges the full spectrum of issues that any other American would face, and then some. This bill really addresses a couple of key concerns specifically associated with housing, with homelessness, and with making housing more affordable to ensure that veterans don't lose the American dream they fought for just because they're behind on mortgage payments. There's still a lot of work to be done to reform the delays in receiving health care access under other VA programs. I know the current VA secretary is working hard. The people up there are working hard every day to reduce the delays that veterans face, but there is always room for improvement, and I would urge Congress to review how they can streamline the process for veteran care.
Keith, lastly, is there anything that you'll be watching for next on this front?
Well, the real question is, now that Congress has passed this bill, the president has signed it, how efficiently will it be implemented? Making these dollars available is obviously one of the most important steps, but getting them into the hands of veterans, getting lenders to cooperate and stop foreclosure proceedings, knowing that they're about to be made whole with a temporary loan made under this program, that's really the next step. You know, giving the benefits is great, educating people about the fact that the benefits exist, and then delivering them in a timely manner. That's always the hard part, but I know the Trump administration is going to be working tirelessly to get these benefits into the hands of veterans who need them.
Keith Gruss, thank you so much for your service and for your time today. And financial records that relate to their dealings with the Chinese regime over the past 10 years. In a letter to Harvard's president, the lawmakers expressed concern about the school cultivating relations with, quote, one of the most powerful bodies within the Communist Party. Also spotlighted is the Harvard Kennedy School's formal partnership with the Chinese Executive Leadership Academy, Pudong. The partnership allows for the CCP elite, that is senior Communist Party leadership positions, to participate in training at Harvard in the United States. Harvard has until next week to hand over documents regarding such ties to the Communist Party, and we will keep you updated there.